Jealous gold digger threw acid on a poor bride. Billionaire groom's shocking response stunned all. It was a radiant morning, the kind that felt like it belonged in a dream, with sunlight streaming through the tall windows of the luxurious wedding hall, reflecting off chandeliers and casting glittering patterns on the polished floors. The air was filled with the soft hum of excitement and the delicate scent of roses and lilies that adorned every corner of the venue. Guests arrived in their finest attire, chattering with anticipation, their faces glowing with happiness and curiosity. Everyone had come to witness the union of a woman whose heart was as kind as her smile was radiant, someone who had grown up with very little but carried herself with grace and dignity, and a billionaire groom known not only for his immense wealth but also for his charm, charisma, and quiet generosity. People whispered about how perfect they looked together, a union that seemed almost too good to be true, a meeting of hearts from two different worlds. Yet amid the glittering celebration and the joyous atmosphere, a shadow lingered unnoticed. Among the crowd was a woman whose smile was sharp, her eyes calculating, a gold digger who had long believed that the groom's fortune should have been hers. Her envy had festered silently, and what had started as quiet jealousy had grown into something dangerous, a storm waiting to strike at the most vulnerable moment. She had studied the wedding day meticulously, waiting for the perfect opportunity to act, and when the moment arrived, she moved with precision and a cold determination. As the bride began her walk down the aisle, radiant in her flowing white gown that seemed to glow in the morning light, the jealous woman struck. In a split second, a vial of acid was thrown, hitting the unsuspecting bride. Screams erupted instantly, a sound that cut through the music and chatter, bringing chaos to the once serene hall. Guests gasped, some rushing forward to help, others frozen in shock, unable to comprehend the sudden violence. The bride, overwhelmed with pain and fear, tried to protect herself as the acid burned through her dress and skin, tears mixing with the blood and pain, blurring the world around her. The air was thick with panic, the scent of fear mingling with the lingering perfume of flowers. Some guests called for help, others tried to restrain the attacker. But in the midst of this nightmare, all eyes turned instinctively to the groom. Everyone waited to see his reaction, knowing that in him lay the power to either escalate or calm the situation. His face remained composed, his eyes locked on the bride, radiating concern and shock in equal measure, a silent promise that he would protect her no matter what. In that frozen moment, time seemed to stretch as the world held its breath, waiting to see how the billionaire groom would respond to the unthinkable. And in that brief pause, the intensity of the love, fear, and courage present in that room was palpable, a storm of emotion that would be remembered by everyone who witnessed it. While the wedding hall was still echoing with screams and the frantic shouts of shocked guests, the billionaire groom stood almost eerily calm, a figure of composed strength in the middle of chaos. His eyes, sharp and unwavering, scanned the room to ensure the bride's safety before allowing himself a single thought toward the attacker. A mixture of anger and disbelief flickering across his face for a moment before vanishing into measured control. Without a word, he signaled to his security team, a subtle gesture that set them into action with disciplined precision, moving swiftly to isolate the woman who had caused such terror and to guide the frightened bride away from the immediate danger. The crowd watched in stunned silence, unable to comprehend how someone could remain so collected in the face of an act so violent, so personal, and so terrifying. Yet the groom's calm was not indifference. It was a quiet storm of controlled emotion, a deliberate decision to not allow rage or panic to dominate the room. He approached the authorities with measured steps, his voice steady and unwavering as he instructed them to take over the situation, insisting that justice be served through the proper channels rather than through retaliation. The guests murmured among themselves, some incredulous, some admiring, as they realized he was choosing law over vengeance, dignity over spectacle, and love over fury. Meanwhile, the bride, her dress scorched and her hands trembling from the shock, looked up at him with wide, tear-filled eyes, struck by the depth of his composure. In that moment, she felt a surge of gratitude and admiration, understanding that his love for her extended far beyond the glittering surface of wealth, beyond the social status that drew so many people to envy them. His love was active, protective, and unwavering, demonstrated in his actions rather than empty words. He took her hand with a firm yet gentle grip, a simple gesture that spoke volumes about safety, reassurance, and trust, and led her back toward the ceremony, ensuring she felt shielded from harm. The hall, though still tense and whispering, seemed to collectively hold its breath, captivated by the extraordinary control the groom displayed. The way he had managed to turn a moment that could have descended into chaos into a testament to character and principle. Every eye in the room, from family members to strangers, noted his dignity, his poise, and the subtle authority he wielded without raising his voice or making a scene. He demonstrated that true power was not in aggression or vengeance, but in restraint, careful thought, and the ability to protect and support those you love, even under extreme pressure. And as he guided the bride back toward the decorated aisle, every onlooker realized that they were witnessing more than a wedding. They were witnessing an extraordinary display of integrity, courage, and the kind of love that could remain unshaken in the face of true danger. Just when the tension in the wedding hall began to settle, and the guests thought the worst of the chaos had passed, the billionaire groom stunned everyone with a move no one could have anticipated. Calm yet commanding, he stepped forward and announced that the wedding would continue as planned, his voice steady, deliberate, and full of authority. A ripple of shock ran through the crowd. Some whispered in disbelief, while others stared, wide-eyed, unsure if they had heard correctly. The groom's decision was bold, almost defiant, as if he were declaring that no act of cruelty, no wave of jealousy, and no single malicious person could steal the joy of this day. But that was only the beginning of his astonishing strategy. Unbeknownst to everyone, he had already anticipated danger long before the wedding, taking careful measures to ensure that any attack on his bride would be met not just with immediate protection, but with absolute justice. In the days leading up to the ceremony, he had discreetly installed surveillance cameras around the venue and nearby areas, capturing not only the attacker's presence but also evidence of her planning and intent, proving without a doubt that this was a premeditated act. As the authorities arrived, called promptly at his instruction, they quickly reviewed the evidence, and within moments, the woman who had tried to destroy the bride's happiness was apprehended. Her face, once full of confidence and malice, had turned pale, the shock of being exposed and caught leaving her almost speechless. The guests could hardly believe what they were witnessing. The perfect combination of foresight, calm strategy, and calculated justice, all executed seamlessly by a man who refused to let anger or panic dictate his actions. Eyes darted from the bride to the groom as the crowd tried to comprehend the layers of planning and courage behind his actions. The groom's decisions spoke volumes. This was not just about punishing someone who had done wrong, it was about protecting love, dignity, and the sanctity of the moment. Every gesture, from holding the bride's hand firmly to directing security with precise commands, conveyed his unshakable resolve. The wedding hall, which had been filled with chaos moments before, now felt a charged silence, a mix of awe and admiration, as everyone realized that what had just unfolded was not mere reaction, but a masterclass in handling crisis with intelligence, calm, and authority. The billionaire's actions made it clear to all present that no malicious intention, no jealous scheme, and no reckless act could harm his bride or disrupt the happiness they were meant to share. It was a lesson in resilience, strategy, and unwavering love, leaving everyone in the room stunned, inspired, and forever aware that the power of calm and foresight could turn even the darkest moment into a triumph. The bride, finally safe and slowly regaining her composure, looked up into the eyes of the man she had chosen to spend her life with, feeling a profound wave of gratitude and awe. In those deep, steady eyes, she saw not only love but unwavering protection, a silent promise that nothing in the world could harm her while he was near. Around them, the wedding hall, once filled with chaos and fear, began to breathe again with a renewed sense of calm, as if the very walls had absorbed the tension and released it in relief. Guests, still processing the shocking events that had unfolded, whispered in hushed tones about the groom's extraordinary wisdom, his calm under pressure, and the courage it took to manage such a terrifying situation without losing his composure. Conversation swirled, pointing out how every action he had taken, from ensuring her immediate safety to orchestrating the swift capture of the attacker, spoke volumes about the kind of man he was. Someone whose power was not measured by wealth alone, but by intelligence, foresight, and moral strength. The woman who had tried to destroy the bride's happiness, her plan fueled by jealousy and greed, had been completely humiliated, leaving the hall with her head lowered, unable to face the gravity of her own actions or the collective judgment of everyone who had witnessed her audacity. Meanwhile, the bride and groom shared a quiet, intimate moment amid the grandeur of the celebration, a private space carved out of the chaos, where words were unnecessary because their connection spoke louder than anything else. In that moment, they understood that their love had been tested, and through the test it had emerged stronger, more resilient, and unshakable. The danger they had faced together became a memory that solidified trust, deepened respect, and highlighted the true nature of partnership, facing threats, adversity, and malice together, without faltering. As the ceremony resumed, there was a palpable shift in the energy of the room. The earlier fear had transformed into admiration and inspiration, a recognition that love was more than fleeting romance. It was protection, loyalty, and a steadfast commitment to stand together no matter what forces tried to tear them apart. Every smile, every glance, every quiet cheer from the guests reflected an understanding that they had witnessed something extraordinary, a living example of how courage and love could coexist to overcome even the darkest intentions. And as the couple moved gracefully through the remainder of the celebration, hand in hand, there was a sense of triumph that went beyond the physical safety of the bride. It was a triumph of character, of justice, of morality, and of a love that refused to be shaken by envy, malice, or cruelty. That day would be remembered not only as a wedding but as a testament to resilience, loyalty, and the extraordinary strength that comes from standing together in the face of adversity. A story that every guest would carry with them long after the last toast had been made and the final flower had been placed.